Hello everybody and welcome to The Thing I Love Most show. My name's Nolh. This week we are joined by our very own Rodney. Welcome Rodney, moving from behind the camera to join us on the sofa. Pleasure to have you. And once again we're joined by Matthew. After his debut last week, we called him back because he performed so well.
I'll take it as a compliment.
Great stuff. We've got loads to talk about because obviously it was a 2-game week and we've obviously got some news as well to talk about. So let's cast our minds back to the PSV game last week. I did go to the game.
It was so long ago, doesn't it?
I know, it's really weird to talk about, but it was, we do need to talk about it. I mean, firstly, the ticketing was an absolute nightmare. I queued for an hour and a half to get our tickets. Lots of people couldn't get their tickets because they didn't have the correct form of identification. Obviously, if you didn't know, they changed the system because basically 10 years ago, there was some issues with the crowd. And so it was a policing issue where they basically said that they had to show photo ID, passport or driving license of the ticket holder. And obviously quite a lot of people buy their tickets on points that they've had for a long time, basically. So there's a lot of people that struggled. My highlight though was a young man, I'm not going to say his name because I can't actually remember his name, but we heard about him in the queue, and he basically said that, we spoke to his friend in the queue who told me about him, and he was saying that he was going to buy a wig, and we were like, why is he buying a wig? He's buying a wig because his season ticket was in his sister's name. And
so it was a female wig?
It was a long, blonde, curly hair wig, and obviously, it was just hilarious just to even think about that fact. Then when he turned up, I couldn't even look at him straight in the eye. Then that just all changed when he got his apples out. When he put his apples down his top, I could not look him. I couldn't. And we wanted him to get a ticket so much. We were like trying to keep it really, really straight. We're like, oh yeah, it's just normal. Yeah, it's like, we've been down the lane with her for ages. She's great. Unfortunately, he didn't get a ticket. So the tickets we had were these weird premium corporate tickets that were basically within the PSV stand, but there was about 200 of us that weren't really segregated, and it was it could have been quite dodgy, but it was fine. We could see the Spurs fans quite high up in the corner. There was about probably, I'd say, 300, 400 tickets that hadn't been collected, obviously for the reasons that I've spoken about.
Were there lots of gaps then?
Lots of gaps, yeah. There was a whole corner which was basically just free. And then the game itself, I mean, I felt we were playing a championship side. I don't know what you guys felt. It was like I thought they were one of the worst teams that we played in a long time, and yet we've come away with the draw. It was incredibly frustrating. I don't know if we were too complacent or it was just one of those strange situations where we obviously gifted them the first goal through Toby. Big mistake from Toby. People were saying that it was Sanchez's pass which made you put him under pressure. I disagree. He basically just made the mistake himself. It was his own doing. Obviously, it was unlucky the fact that he got the challenge in and it loops over the keeper, but he has to take the blame for that one. And then obviously the sending off of Lloris, Eriksen's misplaced pass, put them in, but then, and we're going to discuss Lloris quite a bit once again this episode. He can't be doing what he did. It was a rash challenge. He was out of control, and he deserved to get a red card. People are saying he didn't. My personal opinion was that he did. I don't know what you, Matthew, thought of the game as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, on the red card, it was a red card, wasn't it? He's come out, he's taken the player, hasn't he? It's a red card. But on the game, it was so frustrating because we dominated the game. It was a game we should have won easily, And at the end, at the end of the game, it's 2-2, and you're just thinking, how did that end up 2-2? Like, I know obviously we had the sending off, and that put them back in the ascendancy, obviously. But if you look at the game as a whole, I mean, on last week's show, I predicted an easy win, and I still thought it was going to be. And
Jinxed us.
I wasn't the only one that said it was going to be an easy win, but. Yeah, it should have been. It should have been. Even like on paper and in the game, it should have been an easy win. But like you say, I mean, Toby is so unusual. Toby Alderweireld is so unusual for him to make a mistake like that. And obviously it was a double mistake, wasn't it? I know the second one he's gone in for the tackle, and it's his tackle that's looped it over Lloris.
I thought it was unlucky there, though.
Yeah, no, that was unlucky. I mean, like, how many times does Toby fly in and But he pull out
he did it last night
a tackle
against
out of nowhere.
City,
yeah, exactly. He does that all the time. But unfortunately, that time it was, it helped them score. But
but is that complacency? Is that?
I think it's for me. I think it's tiredness. I think it's tiredness. I think a lot of our players, they didn't get a proper rest after the World Cup, and I think the tiredness is starting to creep in. I mean, we're talking about the game as a whole, but I mean, you look at Harry Kane. I mean, Harry Kane just looks so exhausted at the moment, and I think when you're tired, it obviously affects you physically, but it affects you mentally as well. And Toby seemed to switch off a little bit with that mistake, didn't he? And it's so unlike him to do that.
Concentration.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then again, he probably wouldn't do that if he was playing Man City or if he was playing Barcelona. Do you know what I mean? It's like, because they are playing a team that weren't really much of a threat, then you're not going to be as mentally on it, because you are, maybe complacency is not the right word, but you're gonna be more relaxed because they weren't a threat really.
Yeah, it's only natural, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, so I mean, Lloris again. I mean, the reasons for his decision. Are you thinking that his mind is sort of changed now? Obviously, we spoke about it last week in terms of he's a sweeper keeper now, so he's making more mistakes. There were defenders around him. He didn't need to do it. Why is he doing it? Why is he making these rash decisions?
I think he always comes out though. I think he's just maybe one yard too slow, possibly. I think Poch wants him to do that because he didn't want to blame him either, did he?
Yeah.
Come out and said that afterwards.
I like Poch for not throwing his players under the bus. I think that's kind of him. But at the end of the day, and he does say if they do make mistakes, he's saved us so many times, everyone makes a mistake. And I completely get that. But at the end of the day, if it's becoming more frequent, and it's not just like a mistake, it's not a misjudgment, it's a rash decision where he's thought, oh, that's a good idea for me to come out and try and take him out with my feet, when it wasn't anywhere near a good idea. So it's not even, it's a difference between a mistake and a lack of judgment.
There's such small margins though, isn't there? I mean, if you look at last night's game, I know we keep going back to it, with that Kane 1-on-1, where Ederson came out, if he was like half a yard slower, Kane would have scored, wouldn't he?
Yeah, of course.
So, don't know.
It's always going.
It's his kicking what winds me up more than those tackles.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, it's always the problem though as a goalkeeper, isn't it? You're the last line of defence, aren't you? You make a mistake as a goalkeeper, and it's highlighted more, isn't it? So it's like you're a striker, for example. Say Kane misplaces a pass, then you've got to make your way all the way to, but you're literally the last line of defence, aren't you? Yeah. And I think that obviously I think Hugo deserves a bit of stick, because he does seem to be making quite a few mistakes, but I still rate him as one of the best keepers in the world. And his shot stopping is second to none. He's phenomenal shot stopper, and I appreciate that's not anything to do with his rash decision making. But I don't know. I mean, what is he? 31, 32. It's not like he's getting older, and it's a really odd thing that this seems to be really creeping into his game, where we kind of seen it a lot more, and there doesn't seem to be any rational reason why. It's really odd.
Maybe the drink driving thing, I don't know.
Yeah, possibly.
But for me, the last couple of seasons, his kicking's just deteriorated. That, and for me, that's...
We saw it last night against Man City. I mean, we'll talk about the game shortly, but it was just so many times, and when he's got the ball at his feet, he's just giving it to their players, and it's coming straight back at us. But the time that he did kick it long, I think we actually might have created a chance off it. And if you look at the Kane performance against Spain for England, when Pickford did go long to him, he can hold a ball up well. Yeah. And if you then have players around him, like we have in terms of Moura, Lamela, Eriksen, Ali, if you have those runners, then that's a really, really good opportunity, because the players will go to Kane, he can hold it up, he can turn, he can do a pass like he did for the Rashford goal against England. That was like classic centre-forward hold-up play. But we're not doing that. We're not going long. And I thought that would have been my plan last night against City, because I think their defence is... they would have struggled with Kane like that. Which brings us on to the City game. A very, very strange feeling last night I had. It was really, really weird. I wouldn't say that I felt happy, but I felt content. And I would say that was the word. And it was more to do with the fact that I thought we held our own against obviously a team that I think are going to run away with the league. And I mean, obviously the problem is that we're still not firing, and we're still not creating as many chances as we need to. However, if the Lamela chance hadn't have bubbled up as much as it did, and if Kane's touch had been better in the first half, then it might have been a different game. Obviously, City had their chances as well, but I was, I didn't. I mean, there were fans around me that effing and blinding as usual. But for me, it was. I wasn't. It didn't bother me, that result, as much as maybe other defeats obviously have, because I thought the performance was okay. Second half, I thought we definitely competed. Yeah, and I think the Winks coming on was a big difference to the team. I think he changes the dynamic of the team when he comes on. He's much more forward facing. He basically turns. He's becoming better, I think, at driving runs this season. That seems to be I
think with age he's becoming more confident, isn't he, to be the player that maybe he was for the under 23s and stuff, and that's what we need to see more of, don't we? That's why he's got that potential.
So do you think now he's moving ahead of Dembele
is he ready to take
Dyer?
over?
I mean, he came on for Dyer last night, which was
I was surprised actually. I thought he was going to take them.
Dembele which I quite like, to be honest, because Dyer obviously is more defensive, but he also doesn't really offer much going forward. And in those kind of situations, when you are chasing the game, then you do need someone who's going to look for that pass, And obviously Dyer's got in his locker to, do like a long ball like he did for the alley goal against Chelsea, but it's few and far between. And Winks is much more dynamic. Dembele for me just still, I just don't. He just looks like a yard short.
You can always tell when if he's not fit by how much he loses the ball, because he never loses the ball, does he?
But is that fitness, or is that just general getting old? I mean, he's not an old man, but do you know what I mean? Is that lack of pace? Is that lack of touch? That lack of technique, quality,
concentration, maybe?
I think tidiness plays a part with him with fitness, because if you look, when I watched the game yesterday, there was a point, I think around about the 70th minute, and he's in the middle of the screen, and he just looked like someone who'd run a marathon. Just looked exhausted. Someone just looks absolutely exhausted, and I think for him it's got to be a fitness thing, because Dembele has been phenomenal for us, hasn't he, in the last few years? He's been just my absolute favourite player, and I feel like for me, the Man United, the semi-final against Man United last year, for me that was when I sort of thought, hang on, where's the Dembele that I like? And he's never seemed to have.
It is sad.
He's never seemed to have picked it up since then. I think Pogba bullied him for off the ball, and he scored from that, didn't he? But Dembele doesn't lose a ball like that, and he's starting to, I don't know what, just sort of almost like break up, the way he's such a powerful, strong midfielder that just no one gets the ball off, and that's not the Dembele we're seeing this season, is it?
No. So I mean, the defeat obviously was annoying and frustrating, as I said. The goal, Trippier mistake. Are we all sort of agreed on it being his error? Frustrating that these mistakes seem to be creeping in, and it's not just Lloris. It's obviously Toby. It's Trips. You can't have these mistakes in these crucial games. It's like we need to be able to, in order to basically battle with these teams, you have to be mistake-free. Fair enough, if they score a wonder goal, you can't do anything about it, but you can't be giving them goals.
The thing that wound me up most about that was not just the header that he sort of skimmed off the top of his head. It was how Sterling just went past him into the box. It's like,
made it look easy.
Too easy.
Yeah. I've never 100% rated him as a defender. I think going forward and crossing is his strength.
I think he's a wing back more than a right back. That's the thing.
And in a few Champions League games, he's been found out by tricky wingers. I think so. I don't know. Walker sort of. We could see what we missed yesterday.
I think he played well, he's more of a raging fullback, isn't he?
So the things with Walker as well, he'd make mistakes, but his pace always got him out of jail. And Trippier hasn't got that, hasn't he?
No, you're right.
Sissoko, a lot of people's man of the match. I thought he was very, very good once again, which is great to see, because there are still the Sissoko haters, which is something that really, really infuriates me, but they will always be there just because he seems to be like a sort of a cult figure in that respect. But I was really pleased. He was driving when he got the ball. He had real intent, and in comparison to the other players around him, he did do really, really well. From my angle, and I haven't seen the replays, I didn't see that when he went inside on the right hand side. I didn't see how close he was, whether he could have taken a shot or whether it was the right decision to cross the ball.
Yeah, for me, that was his best performance in a Spurs shirt that I've seen, and I spoke about it in the show last week, how you know, it's almost like he just hasn't got that confidence to take. But it seemed like he was a different player yesterday. Like you say, with that, it looked like he could have taken it on. But I just felt that his confidence is growing now, and we're going to see a better player, and he's willing to take those risks. And probably the assist at the West Ham game has probably helped him.
Definitely,
because he knows that he can pull it off.
Any player is going to thrive with confidence. You know, it makes sense, and you know the fans are actually singing his name now. You know, which is really, really good. And he has got that strength and drive and pace. He's always had that, but he hasn't necessarily always had that control. He always sometimes looks a little bit clumsy on the ball, but he's starting to play better. He's starting to improve in that respect. So, were you surprised with the team selection, keeping 3? I mean, I think that was our best bench we've ever had in terms of the fact we had Gazaniga, we had Aurier,
Son,
we've got
Winks,
Son, Ali,
Dele Alli, and Eriksen.
I mean, that is incredible. Were you surprised at the selection?
I was. I don't know about you, but I was surprised.
Who would have you started?
I would have. I mean, if they're fit enough for the bench, they should be fit enough to start.
This was a question that, like Brian, who's a member of the DSI group as well, was saying last night. If they are fit enough for the bench, are they not fit enough for the team? Is it the fact that they can only really just do 20 minutes? Is that their level of fitness? Is that how it works? Or
But surely it would be the other way around. Surely start with Dele Alli and Eriksen. Start with them, and if they start to tire, then take them off. But if we would have started with those, I can't see us having that poor start that we did have. You know, I think
you did notice when Ali came on, he
obviously
he slotted the ball through for the Lamela chance. But
I think when they come back from injury, they're wary that they might be a bit off the pace, a bit like De Bruyne when he came on. He was giving the ball away. He seemed a yard behind it.
Yeah, you're right.
So I don't know if they must test him.
Eriksen played almost I don't know if he played the full game against PSV, and he looked good apart from when he gave the ball away for the sending off. He was really good. That was vital to see, because Kane is a completely different player when Eriksen's on the pitch, as you saw from the Kane goal. Like he really, really thrives off Ali and Eriksen. So to get them back is key. So
I would have started with Winks and Eriksen actually. Yeah. I think we miss him.
And who would you have dropped?
That's the one, isn't it? Probably Dembele for Winks, and
Sissoko or Mora.
Yeah, it's a hard one, because I think Sissoko done well cleaning up a lot defensively yesterday.
Mora for me still's not doing enough.
Probably Mora maybe.
End product.
But he's playing on the left, so I don't like Eriksen out there. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that Manchester United game, Mora put those 2 goals away, and you're like, this is not a player. We're not seeing it from him, but he's not sort of replicated it since, has he?
No, he's good on the ball. He skips through a few players, but then there's no end product, and that's what we need. It's almost like Lamela was a couple of years ago. He's sort of like he's flashes of doing something, but just not that final.
It could be frustrating, can't it?
Yeah. So, but I think having Ali and also Son as well on the bench didn't even get a sniff, and he's now one of our best players last season.
I'm glad he played Lamela over Son now. I think Son hasn't. It's been out.
No, this season
sorts,
he's looked tired as well, and he struggled with the World Cup, and also travelling for his friendlies and stuff back to Asia was really, really tough. So.
And he had the Asia Games as well, didn't he?
The other day, yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so overall assessment, decent performance.
Yeah, I mean, everyone was scared it was going to get a whooping, weren't they? Especially after the Liverpool performance. So to come away 1-0 with chances to have made it 2-1, your prediction. It wasn't. You're not happy about it, but you know. I wouldn't have been able to have taken the 4-1.
So with the Kane touch, the Kane form, are we? I mean, we're going to come on to transfers a bit later on, and obviously it's a talking point. But they're without a sort of a high quality striking option, then we are struggling, I think, with goals and with Kane, because he's obviously not bang on form, and he struggles with having people around.
Are you saying that he should be dropped, rested, then?
I think rested, and I think having a striking option on the bench, if he is looking jaded or if he is not in the game, then definitely, yeah. I think, and he's not going to bring on Llorente. He doesn't rate Llorente.
He wasn't even on the bench yesterday.
So what does that show? And Son didn't come on either. So it's an interesting one.
I think he definitely needs a rest. I think that from my point of view, I think he probably needs to like maybe, you want to give every team respect in the Premier League, don't you? But if we're playing, I don't know, like a Bournemouth or Newcastle, one of those games, then he should have a rest. I think he should just rest him in that game. He needs a couple of weeks off.
But then he doesn't make Llorente to do that.
Yeah, but he can play Son up front, or he
or Mora.
He can play them up front. They can play, in that role. Obviously not the Harry Kane role, but they can play as in a forward position.
Do you think having a baby's affected him as well?
He's got two now, hasn't he?
Yeah.
2 young
Recently,
children.
Yeah. Never know.
And he hasn't rested. I mean, I don't know if you saw the after the World Cup. It was reported that he literally, like the World Cup finished on the Friday, and on the Monday he was back at the Spurs training ground. He just hasn't had a rest, and he hasn't had a rest in something like 4 or 5 years.
Someone mentioned the stats about how many games he played in the last 5 or 6 years. It was crazy.
He just needs like a tour. And even when we have an international break, he's there, isn't he? Like you feel like it's just. Like what Manchester United used to do, just fake an injury. But I can't imagine Kane would. I can't imagine Kane would want to do that though. Even Pochettino trying to persuade him, he wouldn't take it. He'd be like, no, I want to
drop the hairdryer on his foot.
Intentionally hurt him.
I mean, there's an international break coming up. I was hoping that maybe Southgate would only play in one of the games of the two. Can't see it happening, but we'd hope.
So it was a truly heartbreaking weekend this weekend, with the passing away on the Saturday night of the Leicester City owner, amongst his colleagues, and also the pilot in the helicopter crash just outside the Leicester City ground. Earlier on that day, Glenn Hoddle was also taken ill after suffering a heart attack. So we send our thoughts and wishes to all at Leicester City, and obviously to you, Glenn. We know you're a fighter, you're an absolute legend. And we wish you all the best in your recovery, and we hope to see you fighting fit very, very soon. It was a very strange weekend, wasn't it? It was just, I've never known anything like it, to have those two things happen in the same day, and it was really sad.
It's one of those cliches, isn't it? But it does put it into perspective, doesn't it?
I don't know if it was obviously a very poignant that they had the Remembrance Day remembrance before the game, which was really, really nice, and I think maybe that might have affected the atmosphere. It obviously was, I think, only about 54,000, was it, something like that?
Yeah, 50.
There was obviously loads of space in the stadium. The atmosphere was pretty poor, I'm not going to lie, and there were quite a few fans actually singing Wembley's and S01E10, we want to go home, which is
I agree with them.
Fair enough. I think they've had enough. The announcement was last week that we were going to be now playing for the rest of the year at Wembley. No date scheduled yet for the actual return to the new stadium. Still could potentially be March even. Like, we did get our show exclusive from our builder, who said that a few months ago that it was going to be March. It does seem to be still up in the air, but I think at least now people can plan for Christmas, like Daniel Levy said, and I think that's fair enough to just get that solidified, and at least now we know that it's going to be the new year, hopefully. If it was available in potentially February or March, do you think we should get in there, or do you think we should now, because we've waited all this time, wait until the new season to start?
I think we're losing a lot of money, aren't we, by playing at Wembley? I think that's the main thing for why Levy is not saying when, because he's trying to push to get us in there as early as we can. I'd ideally.
I think it might give the team a lift as well, to be honest. I think we've struggled because of it. I think the uncertainty is not going to help the club, the fans as a whole, and so I think if we were to move in, if it was in February, for example, I don't think it's going to be the Man U game. People seem to think, I don't think it's going to be that.
I think it's affecting the fans more than the players. I think the players are used to playing there. They're kind of in their little bubble anyway, aren't they? So I don't know. Fingers crossed.
But it was built up though, wasn't it? There was a feeling of, this is it as a club. We are going to be, this is our new home. And then now it's sort of like everyone's still got that excitement, but it's sort of slowly, it's just fading away. So it's
like being promised a PlayStation 4, you've still got your PlayStation 3, and I just want the PlayStation 4, And I think we can see how nice the ground is, and we're all itching to get in. And for season ticket, I say I'm a season ticket holder, so I just I'll keep looking at images and seeing my seat, and I just want to be in that ground at home,
It's like Christmas has been moved, isn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly how it feels. Yeah, exactly. And it's funny with the pitch yesterday. Obviously, they had the NFL game, didn't they? So. They obviously tried their best to clear it, but it's quite ironic that we're going to be playing NFL games at the new stadium, but we've got a pitch, a second pitch for the NFL, and it just looked dreadful yesterday. And I think that was kind of that kind of encapsulated really just everything. We're just fed up. We're just fed up with being there. We're fed up with playing on an NFL. Not that we do it all the time, but just having to play on an NFL pitch. The whole thing we're just fed up with, and we just want to go home, And that feeling, I think, is just going through all the fans at the moment.
I think we can't. We're not in the position to complain about the pitch, but because we have to play on it, then it's incredibly frustrating. That's the point. It's not our home, so we can't say, "Oh, this is ridiculous," because they're doing us a favour by letting us play there. But it's just like, borrow my house. But I had a house party the night before.
Yeah.
The floors are going to be sticky,
the mess.
and there's going to be a few people in the bathroom still.
Yeah, you might slip over.
So moving on to this week, because we've got 2 games to cover. We go to West Ham tomorrow. Ourselves, along with about nearly 5,000 other Spurs fans, to cause havoc. Let's start with selection. Obviously, it's going to be a cup game, so he's going to rotate. And normally, Poch does play Aurier right back if he's fit. Foyth might come into it potentially.
Yeah.
Gazzaniga in goal.
I'd love him to play.
Kyle
Gazzaniga,
Walker-Peters. Do you think he's going to get?
He'll play Vaughan, won't he?
He's going to play Vaughan. So you think Vaughan is still the number 2?
He came on, didn't he? Again? Well, he was sub there.
He was sub.
But why wasn't Gazzaniga sub?
Yeah.
I think he's still. He's number 2, unfortunately. I prefer Gazzaniga to play.
Yeah.
And then up front, I mean, the problem is with Llorente, if Llorente's at the club, surely this is the game that he has to start,
Yeah, if he's not getting a start in this game, then,
because
why is he
Eriksen
at
and
the
Ali are not fit. Well, supposedly, if they didn't play yesterday, they're not fit enough to start. So then you go with Son, you go with Llorente, and then maybe you go with Ali or Eriksen.
I think he'll play both of them tomorrow.
Ali and Eriksen, and not Llorente. Because Son's got to play.
I think Llorente will be on the bench.
I just think that's craziness.
Yeah. And I hope he plays Kyle Walker-Peters.
Yeah, no, so do I.
Because is Rose still injured? He is, isn't he?
Yeah, Rose is
so
injured.
He can slot in at left back.
Yeah, I would agree with that, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. I'd like to see him play more regularly in the league.
I agree. Because he's got pace.
Yeah.
He's got real pace.
I'm wondering if that's hindering his development, where he's not playing many games over the last season.
Did he play for the under-21s? I know he was selected.
Was he?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know.
And then in the middle, Winks will probably start again. Came on as a sub, so I suppose he's reasonably fresh. And then Wanyama's fit.
Yeah. Is he fit?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so we just said the team.
Still a strong team.
That's a good team.
Yeah.
I like that team.
Yeah, not bad second string, is it?
No, exactly.
And maybe what's his face on the bench? Skip? Is it Skip?
I really like Skip.
He got pulled out of the recent under-23 game, so I'm wondering whether.
I really would like Skip to play.
Yeah,
I'd like to see him. Yeah.
He looks quality. Really, really good. He's so young. Yeah. Good. Okay, so predictions time. 2-1 to X is not going to happen. Actually, thinking about it.
I'm wondering what West Ham are going to put out. Are they going to rotate as well? Or?
They will rotate. Yeah, they'll definitely rotate.
If they rotate, I'm pretty confident we're going to get it.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got to be confident, surely. But it is one-off game, I suppose. I quite like the fact it finishes on the day, though. It could even go to penalties, which would be,
not another one.
That's going to be my prediction, actually. 1-0, and we win it on penalties.
Is that what you're going for?
Yeah, that's what I'm going for, yeah.
Oh, man. Stick a tenner on that. Okay, Rod, what are you going for?
I'm going to go for... I like going for goals, so I'll say 3-2.
3-2?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I'm going to go 2-0. Nice and clinical.
You're going to drop that one?
No, nice and clinical, yeah. It's hard not to. Yeah,
it'd be good. So if we win tomorrow, what round is that? Was it quarter-final after that?
Don't ask me a question that I should
Because
know.
we skipped around, didn't we? Obviously being in Europe, but
Probably quarter-final, isn't there? 16 teams left.
Which is good. So it's two or three games away from winning a trophy.
I'll take. Do you know what? I take it happily.
Definitely.
Take it. I know it's only the League Cup, but I mean, it's not like we're winning trophies every year.
No.
I'd happily take it.
Winning breeds winning, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course
you
it
get into
does.
that mentality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've got players who've won the World Cup.
Yeah,
and
it would be good to go to Wembley. Oh,
Well.
hang on.
that was weird, actually, when we played Man United.
Man, it's horrible.
It was a weird
Hated
experience.
it. To all them flipping
In your seats.
Manx walking to Wembley Park in the railway. It's like having a beer with all these. No, not on.
Because we played there for the entire season, it did feel like home, didn't it? So what are you doing in our seats?
Yeah, there was literally someone sat in my seat.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's like, can see you. He's like, oh mate, this is bang on mate, I love it. Like, what are you doing?
You sure didn't have a Cockney accent?
Yeah. Okay, so we're going for 1-1 penalties,
3-2.
3-2 and 2-0. Okay, you heard it here first. Okay, it's time now to talk about our next league game on Saturday against Wolverhampton Wanderers. And I have Dave from YouTube show Talking Wolves on the line. Hello, Dave.
Hello, how's it going?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Firstly, let's just tell us a bit about yourself, your background to being a Wolves fan, and also about your YouTube show that you do.
Yeah, sure. So obviously been following Wolves, well, my whole life really. I've had a season ticket sort of 7-8 years now. Obviously started going because of my dad, granddad, all the family sort of thing really. So just been following them through there. YouTube wise, I've been doing a little bit of vlogging and talking on Twitter about Wolves really. And in the last year or so I set up Talking Wolves. I thought, especially as Wolves on an up at the moment, I thought, I'd start sharing my thoughts about it. So we did that at the end of the Championship season. And obviously still going strong whilst we're in the Premier League now as well.
Great stuff. And so what are your thoughts on the current team? You've been surprised at how well you've been doing? Because I think we have, to be honest. I mean, obviously you smashed the Championship last season, but then I think to perform the way that you did, some of the results that you've been getting and the manner of the results, I think has been quite impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of fans sort of would have taken mid-table. There was three groups of fans. A lot of us sort of thought mid-table, especially with the strength of our team already and the players that we brought in. We've got a few people that would have just taken us staying up this year. And then obviously there was another group of people that thought we could get Europe this year. Whereas I was in the sort of mid-table group. I thought, that's sensible, especially with the amount of money that we'd spent. So at the moment, we're doing just that. We're sort of sat in the mid-table at the moment. We've got some good results already against some bigger teams, such as Uniteds and Cities. And then obviously we have dropped points against the last couple of games against Watford and who did we play last? Brighton. So we're performing as I would have expected to. I think the issue we've got with our team at the moment is firepower up front. We've got one of the best defensive records in the league so far, but we've only scored 9 goals. So for a team that's had 140 plus shots in the league and only scored 9 goals, I think that's a bit of an issue at the moment.
I knew you were going to concede this weekend when I put fantasy league players in. I put Doherty and Patricio, so I knew basically you were going to concede because I'm tainted. I'm a curse.
That was it.
I'm a curse. So your thoughts on Tottenham as a sort of a team at the moment? How do you think we're doing?
Yeah, I've always liked Tottenham. To be fair, they're one of the sort of Premier League teams that I've had a bit of a soft spot for. Of course, I think Spurs have started off quite well. There's a lot of teams, especially with all the background going on at Spurs with the new ground and so on, which I'm sure you talk about every week. I think they're doing quite well, and they've got a good, strong team. You've got a core of English players there, which you don't see often at the moment with bigger teams. So I think they're doing okay. They've started off well. I'm sure they would have probably, as a few fans, would have wanted a few more points. But the way you've started, I think, is well. The league is so competitive now, and to be in and around that top 6 is extremely difficult. And I think Spurs, especially again with the money or lack of money that you've spent, rather, are still doing a pretty good job of staying up there.
And so, what kind of a game do you think to expect on Saturday?
It'll be an interesting one. I think Wolves in the last year or so, we've been very, very good at home. Of course, our last home game we did lose out to Watford, but it's been a fortress at home. We've only ever lost 3 games since the current manager Nuno took charge at Molineux. So it'll be a very good game. It'll be interesting to see how we bounce back from 2 defeats. But under the lights at Molineux, we're always up for it. So I can see us nicking a point. I reckon it's going to be a 1-1 draw.
A 1-1 draw. That's going to be your prediction.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my prediction.
Well, you may like to hear that I have something called 2-1 Tourette's, which is basically where whenever we have a prediction, I seem to inevitably say 2-1. And I think it was... Wow, you see, now I would have said 2-1, but then if you're saying that you don't have any firepower, I'm thinking maybe you're not, maybe you won't score. But then also I think Lloris is sort of, susceptible to a mistake at the moment, so I think a clean sheet is a risky manoeuvre. So I'm going to go for 2-1, my classic.
There you go.
I'm going to pass over to the lads as well. So what are you also thinking, lads?
Yeah, after only hearing that they've only scored 9 goals, I think, clean sheet. So I'm going 2-0.
2-0 for Rodney and Matt.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tough one. Look, obviously being at the Molineux and playing under the lights, their fans are going to be behind them. It's going to be a great atmosphere. They are playing well, obviously, at the moment. I still think we may be too strong for them, though. So I'm going to say 2-0 Spurs.
Okay, so we've got 2-0, 2-0 and 2-1. All right, Dave. Well,
there you go.
Best of luck on Saturday, buddy. Really
Thank
nice
you.
to have you on. And good luck with
Cheers.
the YouTube show this season and in the future. And we'll hopefully get you on again soon.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Awesome. Take care, mate. All the best.
Cheers. Thank you.
So we've reached the end of another episode. Thank you very much for watching and listening. Please do comment and share as much as possible. We do appreciate it. We're still very much in the early stages. We've been only going since the start of the season, and we do appreciate all of your comments and feedback. So if you want to get in touch with the show, you can do on our Twitter handle, which is TTILM Show. And we also have the same on Instagram. We're on Facebook on The Thing I Love Most Show, and we're also on YouTube. So please subscribe, share as much as possible. Thank you once again to Rodney for stepping in from behind the camera. You've been a fantastic guest. And once again, Matt as well, legend. And we look forward to seeing you again on the show sometime soon.
Thanks for having me on, mate.
Thanks for watching, guys. Fingers crossed we're going to get a victory tomorrow in the Cup against the Hammers, and then 3 points on Saturday. Come on, you Spurs.